Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. This is a video that I wanted to do for a long time, and I'm a little bit lazy making this video because I could be ranking every single POI ever in Fortnite, but I just wrote them all down and I was like, man, this is almost 300 things, so I want to do POIs and landmarks, right? So what I decided to do actually, and because I would have taken me forever to get this video out, is I am going to be ranking every single top POI. I ranked them all from 1 to 50, the best 50 POIs in Fortnite history and landmarks, by the way, and we're gonna rank those from worst to best. If I were to take this whole video and talk about each POI in depth, this would be hours and hours long, so I'm gonna touch on each POI just a little bit. It's mostly gonna be about the rankings here. We're gonna start off with number 50. Number 50 is the floating island back from chapter 1 season 6. That was a fantastic POI. It was moving around, it had the tornado, and it was, if you know me, I love POIs with a gimmick, and this POI, not only was it up in the sky, it's just you could jump off and like you had the whole tornado that you could just like float around, and like, you know, you get the point. You could just like fast travel wherever you wanted to go. You could go down to the bottom, heal, and then come back up and fight a little bit more. If you wanted to get high ground, if people were having a build fight, you could just go off the map a little bit, fly up. It was so much fun to fight on the floating island. This was really hard to rank, by the way. Number 50 is the floating island. I consider that like one of my favorite like POIs. Coming in at number 49, we have the chapter 2 season 5 0 point. Now, like I said, this isn't exactly a POI, but it's POIs, landmarks, anything on the map. Now, a lot of people didn't love this season, right? A lot of people didn't love chapter 2 season 5, but I absolutely adored fighting around the 0 point with all the 0 point crystals, the sand tunneling. The gameplay in that season was phenomenal, and it was mostly because of this whole area in the middle of the map. Plus, you could just build up to the 0 point, and if you wanted to have a sky base above the 0 point, you could shoot down. If someone shoots you out, you fall into the 0 point, then you rift, you get some healing. It was so much fun. You had all the crystals around, so you could start dashing everywhere. You had the sand tunneling, so you could hide, move around. That was so much fun to play at. That's why I'm at number 49, chapter 2, season 5, 0 point. Coming in at number 48, we have Loot Lake. Nothing too much to say about this, but this is just some fun OG times. This is something that I wish Fortnite would bring back a little bit, because I understand we have the whole swimming mechanic right now, but why can't we have water that we could just like step in and sink a little bit, just like back in? Because that was half the fun in Loot Lake, right? If the problem was if you had to cross Loot Lake to get through the circle, and it was like, oh my god, I am so slow moving, and if you had to drive a vehicle, that would slow down too. It was just so much fun. That tiny little house too, especially with the cave right below it. It was just fun all around to fight at. Loot Lake is some of the most nostalgic places, and they transformed a lot, but I'm talking about OG Loot Lake here. It was a lot of fun to fight at. Coming in at number 47, we have the chapter 2 season 3 version of Pleasant Park. Now, if you know me, I did not like Pleasant Park. I'm not a big Pleasant Park fan at all. It just wasn't a place that I never got attached to. So many people love it, right? But I loved playing in Pleasant Park in chapter 2 season 3 because the water, the flood made Pleasant Park so much fun. If you remember, there were like crash pads everywhere. Each house was floating. Some of it was underwater, some of it with like the roof sticking out. That place was just so chaotic and so much fun to fight at. You had to fight in the build battle, and it was just great. I really enjoyed the whole flood season, and making it go over Pleasant Park was just so much fun to fight at. Coming in at number 46, we have the OG prison, another OG spot just like Loot Lake. The prison, man, fighting inside these buildings was a lot of fun, especially like at the very beginning of Fortnite, right? When nobody was building a lot, it was just like you, and if you like got yourself stuck in a cell, people could shoot through the cell. That place, man, that place was an absolute blast, and it's so nostalgic. And remember when it came back in Season X, it was just as much fun back then too, except you had the mechs stomping through, and then people were still hiding in the prison a little bit. It was just fun. It was really fun, especially in the OG days. The prison, I can guarantee everybody would have in their top 50, but I have it at 46 here. Coming in at number 45, we actually have a brand new POI, and I don't know how many of you would agree with me on this. It's actually Herald's Sanctum. I think the aesthetic for this POI is absolutely fantastic. I love the chrome. I think it makes everything look beautiful. You have a crazy boss there that's super hard to fight, and you have the music coming on. She gets angry, she kills people, plus you have the tornado there. If you want to rotate, you can turn into chrome whenever you want, so you have that whole like mechanic there going around, so you can just turn into a blob, float around. This POI has like levels to it. I really enjoy fighting at this place. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's brand new. Perhaps it's a little bit too early to judge. Maybe I'll change my opinion as time goes on, but for right now, it's a top 50 POI to me. Coming in at number 44, going back to the OG days, we have Moisty Mire. And I enjoyed this POI a lot because of the same reasons that I enjoyed the OG Loot Lake, where it's like you had these points where you just were stuck in the moss, and it was just slow moving. It's like if someone was trying to run away from you, or vice versa. If you were trying to get away, sometimes you get stuck in the water, and then it would just like, I love things that put a spin on the gameplay, and Moisty Mire always put a spin on the gameplay. And I should also mention that I'm talking about the updated version of Moisty Mire back in chapter 1 season 4, not when it first came out, because that's when it was big big, and you had the movie set, so you could go from the swampy area to this really cool green screen and movie set, and it was fun to like hide around all the props and stuff. And again, the OG days just made this POI feel great, and it was a lot of fun to fight in. I would love to see it return one day. Coming in at number 43, we have Lazy Lagoon, the Chapter 1 Season 8 version of Lazy Lagoon. When they brought it back, it was a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. I still really enjoyed the POI, and I like the POI as it is now, and I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, actually, with the pirate ship in the air. Regardless, Lazy Lagoon with the whole pirate theme, and again, with the water. It was slow moving in the water, and sometimes I wish Fortnite would bring that back, where it's like, you don't immediately swim, or it was just a little deep, what makes you walk a little bit slower. So the pirate ship and all the pirate cannons around, you can find pirate cannons absolutely everywhere, and I had so much fun playing with the pirate cannons with my friends. We'd shoot each other off the map, and then that was back when you would die, and it was an absolute blast. That entire POI, I used to, especially when Arena first came out, right, and everybody was like floating around with the ballers and stuff. That POI was so crazy, and it had a fun getaway mechanic. The pirate ship is one of the best POIs, or excuse me, one of the best like things ever in Fortnite to fight in, you know what I mean? Just a little place. Like the pirate ship made this POI. It is fantastic, and this new POI holds up. This new POI holds up, but I think it's a little bit too early to judge. Coming in at number 42, now I don't know the name of this landmark actually, but it's the Chapter 2 waterfall. That's what I always called it. Have you ever had a fight here? It was so much fun. We had the bridge where you could jump off of. You had the little ravine. You could be shooting from people from above, and if storms coming, if you wanted to hide from somebody, you could hide in the waterfall. There is so much like craziness that could go on at this POI, and plus there are all the amount of times that I built at the bottom of the waterfall for people to like dive off of, and then they would just like fall on their face and die, and that was so much fun. I had probably in Chapter 2 some of the most fondest memories at that exact POI, whether it was trolling, whether it was just messing around with your friends, whether it was like taking it to like putting a little spin on the fighting, and it was just every single time that you ended up here inside of a game, it was a lot of fun. It really was, and it was fun just to dive, especially remember when the first time when the Chapter 2 map first came out and you found out that you could dive off of that into the water, and then you would like miss a little bit. It was just fun. It was just fun. I love that landmark. The Chapter 2 waterfall holds a special place in my heart. It's at number 42. Coming in at number 41, another OG location, Dusty Depot. Now this was fun because it was just a little POI with a few chests there, and there was not a lot of room to hide. So if you were going there, it was almost like it was a big risk, right? So you go in there, you battle out. Everybody loved to land there for some reason, and you could get shot from everywhere, no matter where you are. If someone was at the factories or Retail Row, they could see Dusty Depot and just beam you from the side. So you'd have to like hide behind one little wall or the little fence there. It was just so much fun to fight at Dusty Depot back in the day, man. I don't have too much else to say about that. And honestly, speaking of things that I don't have too much else to say about, at number 40, I actually have the Season X version of Dusty Depot. It's amounted a little bit of the same, but it was a little bit better because you also had the rocket there, and it was just added some height to Dusty Depot. It was just taking Dusty Depot and adding a little bit to it just to make it that much more fun. So again, I'm not going to gush about it. It was just Dusty Depot, but an upgraded version. That's why it's at number 41 and 40. Coming in at number 39, I actually have Catty Corner, and this is where Catty Corner first came out back in Chapter 2, Season 3, because Catty Corner, if you would remember it, man, all the AI that was there made this POI an absolute blast to fight in, man. I had so much fun landing there because it was a ridiculous amount of AI. So you could land, and then the cats would go crazy, and the junk robots, and they would just start beaming at you. Especially if you landed there with multiple teams, right? And plus that and all the AI, all you would do is land there, and all you would hear is gunfire absolutely everywhere. It was so much fun. I had a lot of fun landing at Catty Corner. Coming in at number 38, we have Salty Towers. Take Tilted Towers, take Salty Springs, two of the best POIs ever. Merge them together along with the sand tunneling feature, and I think this is better than both of them, actually. Spoiler alert, I don't have Tilted Towers or Salty Springs on the list. I don't think they stack up to the rest of the POIs here, but Salty Towers was the best version of both of them. I think you're taking the best things of both of them, plus the sand tunneling feature, just like I had. Plus you have the 0-point shards. You could mix it all together, makes for some chaotic gunplay, and it was so much fun to land there. I loved Salty Towers. Moving on to number 37, we have the Kevin version of Loot Lake. So it was Loot Lake plus more chaos, because he still had the house there, but instead of the water, you had when Kevin melted into it. And I tell you, man, I know I had a lot of fun playing Fortnite over the years, but that is some of the most fun I have ever had playing in Fortnite, where everybody on Loot Lake was just bouncing in that open area, trying to shotgun each other, trying to spray each other where they are, trying to get some trick shots with the snipers. And it's not like you were just bouncing a little bit. If you remember, you were like flying across there, and people were bringing the golf carts on there, not the golf carts, excuse me, the shopping carts, doing some trick shots, and that was some of the most fun I have ever had playing in Fortnite, was the Kevin Loot Lake. However, all you did was bounce, so it doesn't stack up to the rest of the POIs here. It was just a blast. It was so much fun to play at. Coming in at number 36, we have Viking Village. One of the best landmarks or the unnamed locations in Fortnite history. Everybody would agree that Viking Village is just the vibes there. The vibes there, you had the Viking ship. It was small and compact enough with a lot of loot on top of a mountain that just made the gunplay for it so much fun. And I liked it in particular when the snow was on it, because the whole place was snowy. Plus, I just love Christmas. I love snow, and the water turned into ice, so you could like slide across and get a quick pump shot. It was just really fun to fight there. I think we could all all agree, somewhere around this list, if you're taking every single POI and landmark, you would have Viking Village somewhere around here. Coming at number 35, we have a better version of Tilted Towers, and that is Gotham. So it's Tilted Towers, except make it dark, make it a rift zone. I'm someone who loved the rift zones back in the old days, because I know people now, they're talking about how they miss the rift zones, and I'm like, no, you didn't. You didn't miss the rift zone. I was the OG that liked the rift zones. And then, so you go in there, you became Batman, not became Batman, but you could like pull out your Batman glider and then just fly around. It was Tilted Towers, but you could redeploy, so it was just a lot more fun. It was like taking Tilted Towers, putting a little bit of spin on it. Plus, I love the aesthetic, I love the fire, I love the Gotham, I love the movie theater, I love the whole dark feeling around it, and it was just like police cars burned down. It was a really cool and fun area to fight in, especially with the glider redeploy. It made it that much more fun. I love things with the gimmick. Moving on to number 34, we have the soccer field, the soccer stadium, whatever people wanted to call it. Now, if you want, I like this for a lot of the same reasons that I liked Viking Village. It's just small, compact enough with a lot of loot and just weird buildings where it made fighting so much fun. Like I remember, like there were so many times where we were just sitting there fighting and hiding in the garage, and then people would like try to shoot under the garage a little bit. Plus, you could go in the swimming pool, you could go in the soccer stadium. Plus, you could actually play soccer, and if you wanted to dance on the soccer field, sometimes people would come and actually play soccer with you. It was just so much fun to have back in the old days, and it was just a nice little small landmark that was perfect to fight in, perfect to meme around. You could do literally anything in that spot. It was in a good location on the map too, right next to Tilted Towers. It was great. I had a lot of fun fighting there. Moving on to number 33, a lot of people called this the factories, but I called it the disco place. My friends and I called it the disco place because it's the factories with the disco place. Again, it's actually a lot of the same things that I talked about with the soccer stadium. You could do whatever you want, and something in particular that was fun about this is if you were having a fight inside of the disco place was like taking over the entire thing, and then you couldn't hear anything. You couldn't hear footsteps, you couldn't hear a lot about what's going on, you couldn't hear any pump shotguns, and again, put a very, very nice spin on the game here. It was a lot of fun. I loved fighting at the disco place. It was great. Coming in at number 32, we have the Chapter 2 Season 5 Butter Barn. Again, the sand tunneling made this just that much more fun. In the Butter Barn with the music, come on down to the Butter Barn, and just, you had the little basement there, and it was just a nice, again, I apologize for repeating myself a little bit here, but a lot of these things hold true. Like I'm saying, a lot of these things, there's a reason why we love these POIs, right? It was little, it was compact, had a lot of loot, had a lot of fun. You had the NPC there, you had the music, and it was just really fun to fight at, along with the sand tunneling feature. The Chapter 2 Season 5 Butter Barn was absolutely fantastic. Coming in at number 31, we actually have Shuffled Shrines. Now, this POI, there's not a lot to it. However, I absolutely adored the gimmick here where it's like you had to unlock the area, you had to like not step on the traps doors and stuff. You had the rock and the boulder that could come down and kill people. You could use that to your advantage. You could use that to troll people. You had all the secret chests in the back. I love the Indiana Jones theme. I love that this was just a regular stone POI. It was such an amazing gimmick behind it, and it was such good loot. And just honestly, you could bait so many people with this. You could bait people with armor walls, trap them in with a boulder. It was just the potential to have a lot of fun here and do different things was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. Love this POI, and it doesn't get enough love in my opinion. Coming at number 30, we have the Convergence. This is where the Cube Queen was with all of the cubes, and you had the fun, just like the Kevin Loot Lake stuff. You could bounce around. The cubes were really weird to fight in, which was made for some really fun gameplay, and it was like a lot of different tunnels, a lot of things that you couldn't break, and sometimes you could build, sometimes you couldn't, sometimes you were bouncing. It was just made, again, put a nice spin on the Fortnite gameplay, and that's why I loved this POI. And as we move down to number 29, we also have the Pyramid, which is the Convergence, just like Dusty Depot. It's just the Convergence, just leveled up a little bit, and it's just the Pyramid. You made the Pyramid so you could walk up the Pyramid, you could build the Pyramid, and you could hide behind it. You had the Cube Queen that you could actually build up to and bounce off and like just take a look at, and it's like, oh my god, look, it's the Cube Queen. And then you could shoot people from the top. You could do whatever you want to do. My friends and I always drove a car up it. It was just, you took all the fun with the Convergence, added onto it, and you had the Pyramid. It was absolutely fantastic. One of the best POIs ever, in my opinion. Now, moving on to 28, we have the Spire, and I don't think you guys will agree with me on this one because I know a lot of people had problems with how clunky the build was. How clunky the build was at some point, where it's just like sometimes you couldn't place, or like ramps and walls would be like half inside the Spire or something like that. That didn't bother me. I don't get bothered by that stuff. I loved the aesthetic of the Spire, and I love that there was something where you had this tower that was so huge it went up to the very top of the map. I thought that was so cool. It made for some really fun gunplay. It was fun if you had like shockwaves or the shockwave bow. You have someone like walking all the way up and just like taking all their time getting all the way up there. Then you just shockwave bow them off, and it was just a lot of fun. Plus, you had the Spire Assassin there with the Spire Assassin's boots. You had the Primal Rifle. I love that POI. I thought it was fantastic. Plus, you had all those little shacks and those weird ramps everywhere. I thought this POI was so much fun to fight in. It's actually, again, all of these are some of my best POIs and landmarks ever. And man, 28 at the Spire, there, man, it was really hard to place all of these. Spire was so much fun for me. Moving on to number 27, we have the Yacht. The POIs from Chapter 2 Season 2 are some of the best POIs of all time, and I'm sure you guys will see that. I'm sure you guys will agree with me. Now, the Yacht, it was just a ship, and it was just a chaotic ship. You had all the AI, you had the vault, you had Meowskulls with his pew pew rifle. It was in the corner of the map, which is really weird. It was in the water, and it was just, it was a yacht. It was really fun to fight on a yacht, and I really got those vibes back from the OG days back in Call of Duty, and where you had playing on Hijack. Love that map. You took the fun of that, put it on Fortnite. It was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. I loved the yacht. I loved all of the Chapter 2 Season 2 POIs. They were great. Coming in at number 26, we have Lazy Links. Now, Lazy Links, man, one of the best POIs ever. Like, this is all the best POIs, right? But Lazy Links, you had all the golf carts. You had the golf course. If you remember, that emote first came out in the Battle Pass when you were playing golf, so that you could, like, actually go and play golf, and that did set so much fun with my friends. And everybody who landed at the golf house was just, it was just a little tiny area where everybody racing for the chest, and people would be hiding and like putting traps on like right when you walk in that door, and then everybody would always, without doubt, running into that trap. And then you had that little shed in the back of it that could spawn 3 chests. Sometimes there would be 3 chests, sometimes there would be no chests, and then it was like a big risk going there. There was just so much fun to be had at Lazy Links, and it was a nice open POI with a giant house. I loved it. I thought it was so much fun. I love Lazy Links. Now, guys, like, man, we're at 25 now, and I had such a hard time placing so many of these. Now, the top 5 was even worse for me, but we'll get to it, right? So number 25, just know that all of these are like closely related, and I'd love to know what you guys think afterwards. So now number 25, we have Paradise Palms, one of the best POIs ever. I would think you guys would agree with me on that. I think, like, if most people were ranking stuff on the list, I think they'd have Paradise Palms at least top 10 now. 25 for me. I still loved Paradise Palms. I thought it was great. You had the hotel, and just every single time, like, it just made for some really fun gunplay. You had the really fun hotel. The hotel was always a blast to fight, and plus you had the rest of it. It was all tropical. You had the desert, the mountain around it. It was great. I loved Paradise Palms. It was great. Let's move on, though. Coming down to number 24, we have the Fortilla. Now, Chapter 2 Season 3 was some of the most fun I've ever had playing Fortnite, period. So this was the first POI where it was like, oh my god, there is water absolutely everywhere, and I loved the spin that it put on the build fights because everybody was stuck in water, and you have to like find that little bit of land, that little bit of like just dirt somewhere where you could like actually sit there and shoot somebody without the bloom getting in the way. It was just, again, every single time that I talk about POIs like that, it is just putting a wonderful spin on the gameplay, and I thought the Fortilla did that absolutely, like, it was perfect. Everything about the Fortilla was perfect. You had the mythics, you had some elevations to it, you had the water absolutely everywhere, you had a vault, you had mythics. It was so much fun. I love the Fortilla. I still want it to come back, man. Coming at number 23, we have a POI that I don't know how many people agree with me on this, because I'm the only one in my friend group that really loves this POI, and it is Stealthy Stronghold. Now, Stealthy Stronghold was great because not only did you have the Predator there with an absolutely fantastic mythic that nobody talks about. I love that you could have the Predator's cloaking device. That was great. So you had the IO base in there, plus a giant wall that you couldn't break, which was really fun. You could get on the top of it and like find people in the jungle, but even then it was tough to find because it was a jungle, and you don't get a lot of jungle POIs. And it was just, you had the dirt, like the different elevations for the dirt and the river. It was great. To fight in there was a little bit difficult, especially if you had the mythic item, which is made for the fantastic POI. I thought it was great. I loved fighting at Stealthy Stronghold. It was amazing. Coming in at number 22, we have Moisty Palms. Take Moisty Mire, take Paradise Palms, mix them together, make one beautiful POI. Not only that, but it's a rift zone, so we have a gimmick here, and you played prop hunt. I love playing prop hunt, and again, I don't take Fortnite too seriously, so the fact that you could turn into anything that you wanted there, you could turn into a chair, a mailbox, it made the POI so much fun. You remember just sitting there all the time, just as a chair or a mailbox or like a couch or something, just waiting for someone to use a reboot van. It was great. You took Paradise Palms again. You took 2 of the best POIs ever, merged them together with a gimmick, and man, you had it was something perfect. Coming in at number 21, we have the Shark, or as fans of the channel would say, the Spark. Man, the Shark was one of the best. Again, it's just something amazing about the Chapter 2 Season 2 POIs. It was just chaotic. You had the vault there. You had a wonderful mythics. The POI was beautiful itself. I love the fact that it was actually a shark. You had the teeth there. You could dive in the shark's mouth, or there had a helicopter there. Everything that you would want fighting. You would have close quarters fighting, elevation fighting, far away fighting. It was just, everything about it was great. The Shark was one of the perfect POIs in Fortnite. And as we move down to number 20, here we have the Rig. Again, a Chapter 2 Season 2 POI, and it was absolutely fantastic. You had the same thing, vaults, mythics, close quarters POI, plus the Rig was a little bit better in my opinion because there was all that parts where you could like walk on like the little, what do you call it, the little pipes when it was all broken down and stuff, which was so cool. And TNT absolutely destroying you with the accuracy of the bow, right? Man, that was one of my favorite POIs ever. I miss the Rig. If I could bring something back, man, I would bring a lot of these back, to be honest with you, but the Rig is one of them. them. The rig is one of those unanimously loved POIs. It was great. Plus, you had the oil spill. It was great. It was so much fun. You had the transportation with the toilets. It was great. I loved everything about the rig. Coming in at number 19, we have another version of Pleasant Park, and it is Doom's Domain. So you took Pleasant Park, added a giant castle to it, added some of the most fun mythics of all time, added a vault, added an underground lair, and you have Doom's Domain. You took the chaotic nature of Pleasant Park and just upped it to a wonderful, wonderful scale, and you had Doom's Domain. It was great to fight and loved every little bit of it. Moving on to number 18, we have a little bit more of the same. We have Stark Industries. Take Doom's Domain and just make it make it perfect in every little sense, and you had Stark Industries. Iron Man mythics were so much more fun than Doom's mythics. Plus, you had the fast whiplashes. You had the big long road for the planes, right? And then you had all these different buildings. It was fun to fight in the buildings. It was just, I love this POI. Plus the aesthetic of it, taking a look at Iron Man everywhere and all the Iron Man technology and all the glass you could break and stuff. Fighting in there was so much fun, especially all the Stark robots too. I loved Stark Industries. It was one of the best POIs ever. Plus, you could look off of it and fire down you because you were at the top of the map at Stark Industries. You could just look down and just see everybody below you on the rest of the Fortnite map. It was great. It was such a good POI, man. Coming down to number 17, we have the Season X version of Loot Lake. Guys, I feel like I'm the only one again who loved this POI because every single time I wanted to land here, my squad was like, absolutely not. Why do you like this place? You're stupid, Kyle. And I'm like, man, this place is awesome. It was the first time we ever saw the 0 point. Well, we saw it in one of the live events, right? But nobody exactly knew what it was. But it was like the first time the 0 point was on the map. It was the first time you could jump into it. And it had the whole zero gravity effect. And not only did it have the whole zero gravity effect, it had the ambient noise. It was fun to play around. It was made to spin on the game. It made the whole POI beautiful. It was just some graphics around you that just made the POI absolutely fantastic, and it was fun. You barely knew what was going on with the build, and it was just so much fun to play in that POI. One of my favorite, actually, if we're talking about POIs on just how they look, I think that might be my favorite. I think it might be my favorite aesthetically, but the gameplay for it was absolutely fantastic, especially when you brought a mech in there, man. You brought a mech in there, and then you had the mech floating around, just firing missiles down. That was so much fun. I loved Season X Loot Lake. It was the best version of Loot Lake, in my opinion. And spoiler alert, there's no other version of Loot Lake on this list. Coming down to number 16, now I almost didn't put this on the list here because I wouldn't know if this was a little bit of a cop-out talking about just, hey, you know what, this is the POI. Now, I have the block because there's so many different versions of the block, right? I don't have a particular version of the block for you. I just love seeing all the creative, people showing off their creations on the map. And plus, half the time it was really good POIs. Sometimes it had absolutely no loot on it. I don't know if that's Epic Games' fault or if it was the player's fault. Regardless, I love that the POI changed every week or every 2 weeks, and it was great. And I can only imagine with Creative 2.0, or if you were to reintroduce the block right now, and the way they did Tilted Towers, I'm like, I don't love that. I don't love that. It's just one little building. Plus, everyone was really limited. Could you imagine what people could make if they reintroduced the block? But again, I keep meaning to make a video on the block specifically on why it should return and stuff. So it was just really cool. It was a POI that was always changing, and it was always something cool. It was always something player made, which I really appreciated. I thought it was really cool personally. So anything the block, I was here for. I loved seeing it change. It was a great POI. We're down to the top 15, guys, and at number 15 we have Colossal Coliseum. Now this POI, again, the sand tunneling made this POI so much more fun, and it was all the fun with the prison except multiplied by 1,000 because it was like a true prison, because it actually had prisons in it where you could open the doors and stuff. You had the sand tunneling feature which you could hide, and then that whole feature itself was fun. But once you went inside the Coliseum, there was you could go above or you could go through the doors, and then once you were there, you were stuck, which was so much fun. And then every time in the Coliseum, there was something different in the middle of the Coliseum. It was great. I loved everything about Colossal Coliseum. Some of the most fun I've ever had fighting in Fortnite. The Colossal Coliseum was absolutely fantastic. Coming in at number 14, we have Frenzy Farm, and I actually don't have a ton to say about this. It's just all the fun with Anarchy Farms and Fatal Fields, and just you had all the funs of the farm POIs. Multiply it by 1,000,000, you had Frenzy Farm. Plus, I love the giant house that you could fight in. I love how big the POI was. I love all the loot that was there. I love that everybody would to try to fight at the giant house at the beginning of the match. I love the amount of fields there was. The placement of the reboot van was absolutely perfect in those high weeds. This was so much fun. You always had a lot of people landing there. It was some of the most fun I've ever had landing in Fortnite was at Frenzy Farm, and I love that location. It's weird that we don't have a farm in Fortnite anymore. It's just really weird. Moving on to number 13, we have the Grotto, the first underground POI, and it was just again, the Chapter 2 Season 2, I don't even need to talk about it. If it was a POI from the Agent season, it was absolutely fantastic, right? The Grotto was amazing. It was the first of its kind. You had a helicopter there. It was only 2 ways in. You could go in for the edge of the map, which nobody ever went in. You had to go through the giant hole, which was great, by the way, and you had it was kind of of like playing box fight in there, right? Because once you went into the actual buildings with the miniguns and the vaults and stuff, it was like playing box fight because you could go up like 2 or 3 flights of stairs and that was it. Then you couldn't go through the ceiling because it was like the underground area, and it was just really different. It was really nice. Plus you had zip lines in there underground, which is super weird. It was fun. Everything about the grotto was fun. Moving on to number 12, we have another version of Tilted Towers. That's not actually Tilted Towers, it is Tilted Town. No building, no breaking. Tilted Town was some of the most fun I've ever had landing in Fortnite. Same with like all of this stuff, right? Every single POI here, especially with the top 10, some of the most fun I've ever had playing in Fortnite. Now, the first time you can no build, everybody cried about it, and I was like, dude, this is so much fun. And I actually prefer the way they did Tilted Town instead of like playing a game of like build or playing a game of like the whole match having no build. I like that once you entered the Rift Zone, it was all of a sudden no build and no breaking. Not only could you not build, you couldn't break anything either, which was really, really fun. Plus, you had all the Western weapons there. You could find the 6-shooter, you could find the double barrel. It was like another spot where you could find like specific loot, and that was a lot of fun in itself. So my friends and I sucked at the time, so we kept landing there and kept like screaming and dying, and it was just, I had so much fun in Tilted Town. I have so much fun, like my fondest memories. If you watch the channel, you know Garrett, some of the most fun I've ever had playing in Fortnite was dropping in Tilted Town with my friend Garrett. We would just go there, scream, suck, die, try it again, and it was just, we had those 2-minute games. I loved it. I loved Tilted Town so much. Coming in at number 11, potentially the best of the Chapter 2 Season 2 POIs, and it is the Agency. All the fun that I've talked about with the rig, the grotto, every single little bit of it, it was just so much more fun at the Agency because it was like Tilted Towers but better for me. Honestly, all the fun that people talk about Tilted Towers, I had that fun at the Agency, and the best part about the Agency was you had all those little vents to crawl in, and plus people could shoot you from everywhere on the map because it was in the dead center of the map. So you, no matter when you were done fighting, more were on their way because you were in the dead center of the map. People were firing from the mountains, people were fighting from the other POIs. It was just fantastic. I loved the Agency, loved the vault, and loved it was a little bit more of an open concept in the grotto. It was just great. It was amazing. We are moving into the top 10, guys, and let me tell you, I had such a hard time with these placements, but I have a solid placement for you. Number 10, we're going to talk of the Authority. The Agency, but a little bit better. I thought this was actually better than the Agency. I don't know how many of you will agree with me on this, because remember, the flooded season, you had the water, right? So you had the water everywhere with that giant wall, just like Stealthy Stronghold, and I enjoyed the wall with the Stealthy Stronghold. So it was the only PO on the map that wasn't flooded because it was the giant fortress holding back the water, which I thought was an incredible concept. So you could like go for like essentially like, it's almost like an underground POI, but it wasn't, because people could drive out with a boat, swim, and then get on top of the Authority, and then, oh my god, there's this giant drop. Then it was actual land. It was the only spot on the map where it was like actual land besides like the bottom corner of the map. It was just so much fun. Plus you had the Agency, except it was like, it was way taller, and it was just, take everything about the Agency, multiply it, just like we talked about with some other POIs. And I love the Authority. I love the fact that there was water everywhere on the map and you had a giant wall. So that's what the Agency was missing. Coming down to number 9, we have Season 4 Dusty Divot. Not without the trees, not the divot with the lava in the middle, nothing. Just pure Thor style, brand new meteoric POI, just right after the meteor hit. It was great. Dusty Depot or Dusty Divot with the hop rocks. It was just so much fun. That was some of the most fun I've ever had playing, especially with Thanos, right? Just everybody trying to go there, get some loot, and then if you didn't get any loot, you were done for, because there was like nowhere to fight, right? You had those tiny little buildings and everybody was stuck in the crater, and it was just such an open concept with zero turbo build. I loved Dusty Depot. I keep mixing it up. Sorry, Dusty Divot. It was just so much fun. I love the open concept of it. Love that it's a little bit inside the ground. Love that there's buildings right in the middle and there's just that giant open area, kind of like Loot Lake, where it was like you had to like get through the water to get to the POI. It was like you had to get through the giant crater to get to the POI, which was just made for some fantastic gameplay. Coming down to number 8, man, guys, we're in the top 8 here. My throat's actually getting super dry talking for this long. And we have, well, a lot of people called it, I'll call it this, everybody called it Westworld. It was an unnamed location next to Paradise Palms, and what made this POI fantastic was every building was really, really small. So when you fought in the buildings, it was just a really fun fight, especially back when it first came out in Chapter 1, Season 5, right, when everybody sucked. So you had just all these little shacks that you could hide in. It was like a little peeking through the window type action. Plus, you had shockwave grenades, you had impulse grenades, you had the edge of the map right there, so you couldn't slip. You could shockwave someone right off the map, and I did that so much to my friends. My friend Brandon and I, if you watch the channel, you know Brandon, the amount of times that we killed each other, and back then you couldn't get the reboot card after, right, because the water just killed you, right? That was some of the most fun that I've ever had playing, and honestly, trying to get like actual opponents and my teammates off of the map with like loot in the little corner there, that was probably the reason why I had so much fun fighting there. But even if I love that it was so chaotic, as so many people landed there every single game. You had the gas station, you had Paradise Palms right there, you had a giant mountain with a lot of loot on it, you had a zip line. It was great. Fighting there was absolutely fantastic. Coming in at number 7, now we have the best crossover POI in Fortnite history, and it does not get enough love. I tell you, man, people need to talk about this more and appreciate it more. It is Borderlands. taken over Westworld. It is better because it had a gimmick to it. It was a wonderful rift zone. It changed the aesthetic. It changed everything about it. And again, it kept the same idea that Westworld had, where it's like every building was so small and so little, and it was great. Now, the gimmick was really weird. It was like Borderlands. So as long as you weren't getting shot, as long as you weren't getting hurt, I think it was like 4 seconds or something, you would gain shield back to 100%. So you had to like shoot somebody, and then you had to like rush them after, because then they'd be full health and then they'd fight you again. So you'd have to keep doing damage to someone, even if it was just one little shot, even if it was a little pickaxe. Just make sure they don't heal up, and it just put a really, really nice spin on the Fortnite gameplay. I really enjoyed it. I love that POI. Plus, you had all the fun right at the edge of the map, just like I was talking about with Westworld, and that just made it even more fun in my opinion. I loved Borderlands. Thought it was great. I love everything about Borderlands. Love everything about Fortnite. Put them together makes for a fantastic POI. Moving on to number 6, and man, I don't need to talk too much about this. This is a chapter 2 version of Risky Reels. Take Risky Reels, not as good, but it just changed the location of it a little bit. And then you have some of the most fighting you will ever have fun. And it was just like, no matter what, you would always have people landing at Risky, the edge of the projector screen, the houses, just all the gunplay with all the cars there in Risky Reels. In chapter 2, you could drive the cars. They weren't stationary, right? So a little bit of a change from chapter 1 Risky Reels, but regardless, it was just some of the best gunplay you will ever have in Fortnite is at Risky Reels. I thought it was great. I don't have too much else to say about it. And at number 5, we have the chapter 1 version of Risky Reels, back at the top corner of the map. Do any of you remember? Did any of you play when Risky Reels first came out and it was Search 7 Chests and Risky Reels? That was some of the most chaotic play I've ever had playing in Fortnite. It was so much fun, and it was Risky Reels, except it wasn't nearly as like polished as the chapter 2 version. That's why I liked it a little bit more, because you had the meteor in there too. You had the cars everywhere. You couldn't move the cars. You could hide behind the cars. You had a little bit of a broken down house. The houses were like, again, not as polished, and it was just not as much around Risky Reels. You didn't really have any trees anywhere. So as soon as like so many teams landed there, you always had people landing at Risky, and it was weird for the top right of the map, right? It was weird for everybody to land somewhere around there. It was just so much fun. It was just consistent fighting. It was great, and then it took a while to get to the circle, but it was still, it was worth every little bit. So coming at number 5, we have chapter 1 Risky Reels. Coming in at number 4, we have Camp COD. Now, some of you who follow the channel may think I put this at number 1. No, Camp COD is at number 4. I have 3 POIs that I think is better than this. Now, Camp COD, I love when it first came out, first of all, I love the water around it. I love the whole aesthetic of the POI. I think it's great. Plus, okay, you have the giant mountain there, the top of the Fortnite island, the Mount Fortnite. People could shoot down from you if you tried to snipe someone on top of that. That was so much fun because you had to like worry about all that, right? Now, if the circle ever ended there, and it rarely did, but still, you had the house with the giant basement, and everybody thought it was like, I love the storyline stuff, right? So all the stuff there from the chapter 1, it was like stuff like floating off the map. It was just a reorganized matter. You had all these like little hints from chapter 1, so I liked exploring the area. It was like a little bit of a campground. You could fight on the bus. You could fight on the little entrance with the bridge to Camp COD. You had the little ravine. You had the water. You could always fish, and you could look off into the distance. To the flip side, I love everything about this POI. And yeah, you know what? I had more fun fighting at some locations, but man, the gunplay here was great. The terrain was great, but I just love landing there. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it was just one of my favorite POIs ever. We're down to the top 3, guys. Let me know what you think about these placements here. Now, at number 3, I don't think you would have expected this. I have Pressure Plant, okay? Pressure Plant, again, like, I feel bad that I'm saying a lot of the same things for these top POIs, but Pressure Plant was some of the most fun I've ever had playing with the guns in Fortnite. So, you had all these really huge buildings, right? And all these, like, little tunnels and stuff that you go around if you wanted to go around the perimeter, plus it was the volcano, so you had that to worry about as well. But in the middle, man, in the middle was this giant arena, and even when it was updated, you could like float around. It was the same thing with the floating island, like I've talked about, where it's like, oh, I need to escape now. I'm gonna jump in the middle and then float around. I'm gonna come back and sneak up from you from behind. But even if I liked it a little bit better without that, but still with that was a little bit fun. So if you were to go in the middle, there was nothing in the middle. There was nothing. It was like the opposite of Loot Lake. So there was something in the middle and nothing around it. It was like the complete opposite. There was a lot of stuff in the perimeter, but once you got into the middle, there was absolutely nothing. And man, was that fun to fight. And you could fight around the perimeter, you could fight in the middle, you could have giant build fights. If you were having a build fight in the middle of that POI, man, with everybody shooting at you from the top of the volcano, from the opening down where Retail Row was, it was just people sniping at you, people chucking grenades, just coming in brand new. If people were hiding in the tunnel somewhere, they could just like invade your build fight. I had so much fun at Pressure Plant, and nobody agrees with me on that. I think that was a fantastic POI. I loved Pressure Plant so much. Coming in at number 2, man, number 2 is a POI that I keep wishing Epic Games can bring back, because we've been talking about the Ice King for so long, right? We've been revisiting that storyline of the comics. It is Polar Peak. Man, I love the update when it first came out, the giant iceberg. Plus, I love things just like Stark Industries, just like Mount Fortnite, just the stuff where it's like you had the different elevation, you had the extreme. So you could fight from the very bottom, or you could fight from the castle right on the top of the map. And that castle was so well designed, from the Ice King's lair. You could go into the basement with the Fire King. You had the prisons at the bottom. You had snow everywhere. It was updating every single week. You could go to the top of the castle. You had a bunch of staircases. You had a library. Fighting inside the castle, let alone, like, just that would have made for an amazing POI. But not only did it have that, you had a whole mountain where it's like you had an extreme drop, so you could drop from there. Either that, or you could just like walk up. You could walk up from the bottom, and like people, you could see people. You could like stay at the top of the castle, put down a turret, and gun people down that were trying to walk up the mountain. And you had all those other buildings at the side too. You had like the little castle and like the little houses on the side. So not only did you have the giant castle, you had the rest of the POI around it, which just made for one of the best POIs ever. Plus, I love the elevation. Love the impulse grenades, by the way. You could take the zip lines up. That POI was some of the most fun I've ever had playing in Fortnite. I miss it, and I'm still waiting for the day it returns. It just, when it returns, I don't want them to update it at all. I want it as is, in the same spot on the map. Don't change it one little bit. Polar Peak was a perfect POI. Coming in at number 1, guys, we've been talking forever and my voice is extremely tired. We have Starry Suburbs. Starry Suburbs is my favorite POI in Fortnite history, and it is a shame that it is my favorite POI ever, and we only got to play with it for a few weeks. I remember it was in the game for like 2 or 3 weeks. I don't think it was more than 3. Regardless, it was, you take those broken down homes. First of all, it was so nice to see those broken down homes come out, because that was fun to land in the OG days, right? Just like the broken down houses, you saw those rebuilt, and the aesthetic for this whole thing where it was this really nice neighborhood, and the houses were even smaller than ever. It's just the fun of Westworld. Like, you just like have these little shacks to fight in. These houses were even smaller, which was great, and you had like pallets everywhere. You had like little corners, and just fighting inside the houses was fun. Plus, the houses were so close together that if people were fighting on the roofs, you had like just to duck a little bit, and it was just, the gunplay was different. It was fun, and not only that, it was a rift zone. I love my POIs with the gimmick. It was the only spot that you could get a gold tactical submachine gun. Gave us a feeling of the OG days, just something that would absolutely shred through builds. I loved seeing like the stars come down, the shooting stars land on the ground. It had that nice Mario Galaxy feel to it, and you just like, you go down, you get it, you break open the shooting star. It was just great. The POI had this wonderful feeling to it. You had the little music as you came into it. I loved Starry Suburbs. It's a shame that it was only in the game for a few weeks, and that is my favorite POI in Fortnite history. Coming in at number 1, Starry Suburbs. Whew, and I'm tired, man. I'm tired after saying that. I'm starting to sweat. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please, if you have some time, feel free to write down all of your favorite POIs from worst to best. These are, in my opinion, the 50 best POIs in Fortnite history, and I rank them all from worst to best. So guys, this is a little bit of a series I'm doing on the channel. If you want to go check out all the live events, all the stuff that I've ranked so far, I'm going to continue to rank more things. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new here and enjoy the content, please certain like button up with the channel, ton, and subscribe if you're brand new. Check the description down below for links to all of my other channels, as well as a link to Real Ember on 5 will take care of all of your YouTube thumbnail needs. He did this thumbnail, and he can do yours too. And guys, lastly, if you'd like to use my sport creator code in the item shop, it is code Clen, hashtag anime, hashtag epic partner. Thank you so much for watching again, everybody. I will see you in the next video. Take care.